So I'm super excited to get to our second speaker of the night. So our second speaker of the night is Daneal, and she was born in South Africa. She got her first taste of tech in a leadership role at Intel China, and she plays the drum set as a hobby. Daneal, come on up and share your fuck up.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for having me. A lot of things to hold here. All right. Okay. So, my name is Daneal, and I am a workaholic. Now you have to say, hi, my name is... So, before I get into my recovery of being a workaholic, I'm going to tell you a bit of a sad story. So, imagine feeling like a giant hairball. Impossible to unravel, wound up. It's much worse than being a ball of yarn, because a ball of yarn doesn't make you sick. Uh-oh. Have you ever seen a cat vomiting up a giant hairball? Yuck. That was me. In April 2019, I seemed to be on top of my game. My then manager said that I was operating at 120%, which is good, right? Except if you're operating in an unsustainable way. "15 years ago, I started in tech. I loved the speed of startups. I loved rolling up my sleeves. I loved pushing for innovation. And it seemed like it wasn't catching up with me, except for that 1 year after I had my daughter, I had some postpartum. So, keep going. At least I didn't see it that way. I had a solid reputation as an HR leader. I advised and coached hundreds of high-growth companies. I had won some awards individually and for my team. What this meant is failure was not an option for me. So, in December of 2018, I started losing my energy for my job. This was a very unfamiliar feeling for me. I'd never had it. I felt like people could see right through me. I felt like people were seeing that I was a failure, that I didn't have the passion, that I didn't have what it takes. And so what did I do? What does any normal person do? I overcompensated. I just brought more energy to the job, right? And it was exhausting. It felt like I was almost manic. I've been told that I have a gift for standing up in front of people and looking like, like this is just really easy. And it's a great thing when you're talking, when you're standing up in front of people. But when it means that your head and your heart are totally disconnected day to day, it's not a good thing. I can see a few nods. So it catches up to you, because a few months later, I was at Mars, where I work, and we were going through some organizational changes, and I had to do a layoff on my team. And a colleague of mine came up to me and innocently said, how are you, Daneal? And I just burst out crying in the middle of a coffee shop. And I was just mortified. Like, how the hell did this happen to me? But I was great. I was on top of my game. But that's what happens when your head and your heart are completely separate. So that moment in the coffee shop was like my aha moment. I realized that as I reflected back, that there actually was a trail of breadcrumbs. And if I had been a good detective, I would have actually seen what was happening. And it was not only happening in my professional life, it was happening in my personal life. Like, I was losing my shit with my kids and, for nothing. So I told my team that day at Mars that I was going to take some time off. And they were shocked and devastated because I was always, there and always on. My exact words to them was, if I can't lead you, I can't lead myself. And it's like the old, adage goes, you got to put on your oxygen mask first before you support others. So, if I had described myself back then, before I took a break from work, this is how I would describe myself: adrenal junkie. I had a pile of dysfunctional habits that were not sustainable. Speed, never enough, multitasking, no pause, working late, always on, driver, hard ass, decision maker. That was me. I didn't accept anything except a thoroughbred performance for myself, and I had zero sympathy for my shortcomings. Very hard to have empathy for others, I've learned, if you don't have empathy for yourself. So I took the 2 weeks break that I shared with my team. 2 weeks ended up being the whole summer. Because the first 2 weeks were just awful. I was just filled with guilt that I was even taking a minute away from work. And then, actually, before I get to then, probably one of the worst things was actually getting off LinkedIn. I got myself off LinkedIn because I realized that was my dopamine, ridiculously addicted to LinkedIn. The next few weeks after that were filled with panic attacks where I actually felt like I was going to die. The rest of the summer was filled with self-discovery and self-acceptance. The acceptance that it was okay to take time off. In fact, I had to take time off. What I learned through these panic attacks, which were really the worst part of the summer, was that you don't die from a panic attack. You think you're going to die. And I talked to a number of people in tech who had had panic attacks, and they said, they told me exactly what to say to myself. And one of them was just, you're not going to die. You feel like you're going to die, but you're not going to die. That actually helped me, knowing that I wasn't going to die. My husband shared with me, he said that this is a speed bump in the road of life. And it's here to teach you something, Daneal. It's hard, but it is a speed bump. And that sort of sticks with me today. And that I am prone to becoming a giant hairball. If I don't put those healthy habits in every day, then I can just go back right there. What I've gained, as Marcia said, what's the instructional value of the failure? I gained a list of what makes me happy. And I actually started a list, and I couldn't put anything on the list. It was like, I don't know what makes me happy. I have no idea. I was just totally disconnected. And then I put one thing on, and then I put two things on. And then by the end of the summer, it was like, fuck work. I have so many things that make me happy. This is awesome, right? I gained a deeper empathy for myself and for others, and I was able to have some really meaningful conversations with people I cared about that summer. I gained a realization that so many people go through incredible stress and they don't seek out help. And that there are these people, these angels called therapists, and that you can unload on them without anyone evaluating them. And I can't, every time I talk to someone now, I say, go to see a therapist. Everyone should have a therapist. And that I learned that my priorities were seriously screwed up. And that my family and my husband are the people who sustain me and the people that I, need to share things and need to open up with. And that turning 50 can seriously fuck up your body. And that adult acne is a real thing. But seriously, I cried laughed a lot that summer, but I felt like a Coke bottle that had been shook and just released. And that's it. I mean, I hope some of you related to my story. I hope some of you have people who can relate to my story. But thank you for letting me tell it.
So thank you for sharing. We'll open it up to some Q&A. We'll just go to the next slide there. And we'll bring the mic to you if you have a question. Oh, there's one here.
All right, I'm one of these people. I know so many people who are like these high achievers. They never let themselves rest. They're on to the next thing, never really stop. If you saw someone, let's say on your team, that was exhibiting signs of what you went through, what would you say to them, or what would you recommend that they do to avoid hitting the wall before they hit the wall?
It's a really good question because I feel like what worked for me was just I learned the hard way. I really do feel like everyone needs a therapist. I really do truly believe that it's such a gift to have someone who you can just talk with without judgment. I think time off, I think taking time for yourself. I know since then, I do not feel guilty when I take a day off. And yeah, I think for me, time off. Like you've just got to build in that time off. We all say to ourselves, like it's just like maybe next month or maybe next. It's like no, it's got to be every week, right? Like every time I start slipping and going, no, I don't know if I need to meditate or I can leave that exercise. Like I've got things to do. Like I'm busy. I mean, can't do that. Then the hairball starts growing. Yeah. Great question.
Thank you, Daniel, for the sharing. So you mentioned about the misalignment between your head and your heart. So I'm very curious to hear, after taking that summer off, have you started noticing moments of like a stronger alignment? And what are the signal that you have that head and heart alignment in like your career or in your life?
Yeah, I have done a bit more meditation. I wouldn't say I do a lot of meditation, but it does really help you. It has helped me when things are in my body or when I feel like that funny feeling here or some funny feeling. I'm like, okay, what's that funny feeling? Like it is telling me something. So I don't know if I can answer your question, in a very sophisticated way, but I do feel like I am more aware of what's going on with me, and I'm also responding to what's going on with me. It's kind of that simple for me. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for sharing. I wanted to ask, after the incident, did you think about achievement or ambitions differently in your work life?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because after that time, I started speaking a lot less because presenting, while I enjoy it, it puts a lot of stress on you. And it's also an ego thing. So I started to really looking at like what these things that boost my ego, like personal brand and on LinkedIn and speaking and like, why? Like it's bullshit. Like it's okay to not be working on your brand all the time. It's okay. So yeah. I don't have all the answers, but I think I'm still working on myself very much. But thanks for asking.
From an HR perspective, do you think most companies should implement unlimited PTO?
Very interesting. Well, I mean, I think whether you have unlimited or you have limited, the net is the same. Like people are finding with unlimited vacation that people still take the same amount of vacation. So it's not really about that. It's about at the top leadership building a culture where, you need to know your limits and boundaries, and you need to see other people taking time off and being balanced. So that's the most important thing.
Thank you for sharing your story. It is very relatable.
Thank you. Makes me feel a little less fucked up.
Um, I seem to take a lot of time offs as well recently, but I still am not recharged. I still go back to the same routine, like the same mental fuck up, mind fuck, right? So, is there any specific habits did you actually think helped you to, unwind during your time off period?
I mean, if it's more of a mental thing, I think I'm sure that my therapist uses cognitive behavioral therapy on me to try to shift my mindset and my perspective. I've also been certified as a coach, so I think anything that can help you shift your perspective, which I think it's very hard to do on your own. I think you need someone else pointing things out to you. So I would highly recommend either a therapist or a coach. A good coach would be someone who can help you do that, you know?
Gotcha. So, follow-up question to that, if I'm allowed to ask. Um, you
Sure,
talked
you'll cut me off.
you talked about meditation that kind of helped you meditation, right? So, would like to know some of what kind of meditations are there. Some
I'm very light on the meditation. It has to be kind of entertaining. So, I mean, I use the Muse brain sensing headband. I don't know if anyone uses it. I use it because it gives you like some feedback, like if you're good at it, little birds fly and reward you. So but I've used Headspace and Calm, and I'm not very consistent. But I think it's about doing it every day, even if you do it for 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Was mentioned at the beginning
Yeah.
that you play music. What role does that play in your life, and like what is its importance?
Yeah, actually, I should spend more time playing music because honestly, when I am playing drums or I'm like picking up the guitar now, it's very therapeutic because you can't be doing more than one thing. It's so hard. So to me, it's just a really great release for those of you who do music, or I'm sure there's a lot of other things you can be doing where you just zoned into it. I'm sure people who do a lot of gaming and stuff, I'm sure it's the same thing. It's a great release. So whatever that is for you, thank you.
Thank you. That was really great advice and really great questions, everyone. And Daneal, thank you for making the time to speak at this event. I know that you were taking on a lot of speaking things before and maybe was even part of the problem, but hopefully this was a fun one.